And thank you, David, for that omnifarious introduction. Check. So thank you all for spending a few minutes today. As David said, my name is Jarrod Gingras. I'm the managing director of an analyst firm, Real Story Group. And just to give you a little context about where I'm coming from, we like to call ourselves a different kind of analyst firm. You know, I know many of you were in here for Teresa's presentation this morning. She has a version of this diagram here. But the way we look at the marketplace as it relates to software technologies is we don't think it's appropriate to have a single snapshot view of the marketplace. That, you know, that one best vendor out there that's the best of class and best in the industry. What I always want you to be thinking about is what's best for you. Right? There's a best fit for you out there, and there's a lot of different vendors out there in the show hall just outside those doors, and they're all good at something, but they're not all good at everything. And I assure you, all of you are not trying to do the same thing. And it's about finding the vendor that's the right fit for what it is you're trying to do. And so the way that we do that is we take a different approach. We produce research as to evaluating what those tools are good at, but maybe more importantly, what they're not so good at, where they're a good fit, where they're not such a good fit. And our business model is one where, and maybe this is where we're most different, we don't work for any of those software vendors in any way. Okay? We don't write white papers for them. I don't advise them on their product strategy. I don't speak at their conferences, write white papers for them. I'm solely here to sit on your side of the table as buyers of technology and help you make the right decision. Okay? Here's what we offer. We help people pick technology. We also help people make just smart technology decisions and looking at their overall marketing and omnichannel roadmaps. You know, understanding where you are today and where you want to get to in the short, medium, and long term. We can help you get there through a very practical set of recommendations. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I mean by this omnichannel stack a lot today. And then finally, maybe our newest offering is something that we call our Omnichannel Executive Council. And here what we have been able to do is get some of our customers together who own their technology stacks in their big organizations, get them together to be able to share some experiences and some pitfalls that they were able to cross and hopefully help each other through some peer networking. So if anyone's interested in that, I'd be happy to talk more about that. Teresa gave me a bit of promotion this morning, so I thank you, Teresa. But you know, my role at Real Story Group, I'm the managing director, but I'm also the lead DAM analyst. So I am responsible for following all those DAM vendors that are out there and several more. I think we follow a little bit over 30, and we're constantly adding and subtracting as the marketplace tells us to. I also wrote this book, The Right Way to Select Technology. If someone wants a copy of that, let me know, and I'll be happy to find a way to get you a copy of that as well. So let's take it down to earth a little bit. What I really spend my life doing is helping my clients who feel a little bit like this, you know, constantly being bombarded with questions about technology. And I hope to be able to help provide a little bit of sanity, help them navigate this crazy world of marketing. If there's been one, and I use the term marketing, and maybe, David, over the last 10 years or so that I've been doing this, you know, we didn't use marketing 10 years ago very much. DAM was something that librarians cared about, and we were saying, well, maybe you should think about it from a marketing perspective. But now, DAM is MarTech. There's no question about it. Anyone ever seen this slide? Of course, it's in every presentation. Every marketing presentation has this slide in it. This is from Chief MarTech. If you don't follow his blog, I highly recommend you do. There's some great nuggets on his blog. But this is something he publishes every year, and he started with the MarTech, I think, 100, and then it became 200 and 500. This past April, it was the MarTech 5000, but that was just a clever name they came up with. There's really over 6,000 of vendors on here. And guess what this is? This is DAM right here. That little square. So the good news is DAM is MarTech. The bad news is that those messages from vendors that are going to be trying to get your business, there's going to be more messages than ever coming at you. And so one way that I like to try to keep myself sane here is I like to use the analogy of the MarTech mall. So the thing about that previous graphic, that what it doesn't show you is that not all those vendors and all those software marketplaces are created equal. So the way I like to think about it is, if you think about the construct of a shopping mall, you have your anchor stores, You have your boutique stores. You have the little kiosks in the aisle. And as you're thinking about your MarTech stack in your enterprise, I guarantee you have your anchor stores already. You have a lot of your anchor stores defined. But for how many of you is DAM truly an anchor store in your marketing stack? No one? Not yet? Well, it should be. And I want you all to leave here and go back to your enterprises and advocate for DAM being an anchor store in your stack. And I'll tell you why. I'm also going to be talking today about a trend that I'm seeing. And it's this trend that relates to the evolution of digital asset management technology. And this is maybe a little bit forward thinking than I usually get into in these conferences, but I think it's so important that I need to bring it up. And I need you all to, when you go back and spread this message to your companies and enterprises, I want you to be able to think about the long-term roadmap and what DAM's role in that truly is. So if we think about omnichannel, what I think about is truly creating consistent experiences at every single touch point for all of my consumers. Like, I don't care where they're consuming my content, but I want it to be consistent. So whether it's social, whether it's email, it's web, whether it's mobile, whether it's print, video, voice, or something we haven't even thought of yet, I want it to be consistent at every single touch point. However, people have been talking about omnichannel for a long time, but I feel like we're finally getting to a point where we can actually do this and do this right. Anyone feel like they're executing on omnichannel really well right now? What about multi-channel? Can we concede that some of us are doing multi-channel well? Yeah, and that's what I expect, a smattering of multi-channel. But true omnichannel is something we've been talking about for years and years and years, but none of us are doing it quite well. But I'm telling you, the solutions are here to allow us to do it well. And if we structure our organizations in the proper way, if we structure our technology stacks in the right way, we'll be best positioned to truly achieving that for our consumers. That's the holy grail. That's what everyone wants to get to. So let's first talk about the traditional way of organizing our stack. And I use this term stack. I know this is not a real deep technology conference on its face, but when I use the term stack, basically what I'm talking about is what are the tools in your toolkit and how do they fit together, right? What are the technologies you have in your organization and how do they talk to each other and how do they fit together? Stack has become such a useful term, and in some conferences they even have awards for stack. There's a Stacky Award where people compare their stacks versus other stacks, and it's taken on a life of its own, so I've adopted it as well. But this is a traditional way that many organizations have kind of evolved in today's world. So again, I talk about the different channels that you're reaching your consumers with, and then I want to call your attention to these colored boxes down here. We call these the content and engagement management services. And typically, this is where marketers do work. If you're in charge of social publishing within your enterprise, you probably work within a social publishing tool. If you're in charge of marketing, you're working within a marketing automation tool or an email provider. If you're publishing to the web, you're probably very hands-on working in your web content management system. If you're in charge of your brand assets and working with your agencies and external partners, you probably spend much of your day working within your DAM. And if you're on the sales side, you probably live in more of your CRM or Salesforce automation tools, okay? But the problem with this is that while everyone wants to provide those consistent experiences to every single touch point, there's content in here, content in here, content in here, content in here, and content in here. And so with DAM, in many organizations, we've just created another silo. And so I can't tell you how many times I talk to people who are in charge of the website. They say, oh, how do you publish assets to the web? Well, we download it out of our DAM, save it to our desktop, upload it into the web content management system. Well, what about the social team? Well, they do the same thing. Oh, boy. It gets messy, right? We haven't gotten there yet. Now, there's some of you, I'm sure, are further along on your DAM journey and have made some point-to-point connections. We talked to the vendors this morning. They've been doing this for a long time. You can work within a web content management system and pull from a DAM, and that's all well and good. But no one's really doing it at the true omnichannel level. So what happens? we've created these disjointed experiences. Content is being trapped in each of these silos. Thinking a little bit broader than just assets, though, decision logic is being trapped in those silos. Like, I'm creating logic to say, display this piece of content to this type of user based on certain activity. Now, if these systems aren't connected in any way, I can't give someone a certain experience on the web based on what they did and how they interacted with my email that I sent them. Or maybe if I know they went to a website, I want to show them something on their Facebook page or in their Instagram account. I want to make some logical connections based on every single touch point. And so content's getting stuck in these silos, data's getting stuck in these silos, and decision logic is getting stuck in these silos. So this is that kind of uber trend that I've been seeing as an analyst watching the space for quite some time. Maybe one of the biggest trends that I've seen certainly recently is that enterprises are getting smart about this and say, if we really want to get serious about omnichannel, we need to change this up. We need to do something different. We can't be creating web-specific silos and email-specific silos. We need to do something different. So what's happened is our stacks are getting bigger. But smart enterprises are really starting to focus on creating some foundational layers to power our systems of engagement, which then power those experiences in our channels. So I want you to really think about moving some core data, some core content, some core assets, some core decisions lower in your stack. Talk about what that means. So in a perfect world, what ends up in this layer is the channel-specific stuff. And there'll always be channel-specific stuff. There's always certain things that only make sense for a website versus what makes sense in a social channel or an email channel, okay? And that's where that stuff should live. But the core stuff, I want you to push lower in your stack so that all these other systems can consume it from a larger, more enterprise-focused, channel-independent store. Let's break down what I mean by these core pieces, because I think it's interesting, and it's going to really impact the DAM world. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So, when it comes to data, people are really struggling with that data that was trapped within their Salesforce or just the analytics that they learned from visits to a website, or maybe they get the downloads that are in their DAM. They know who downloaded something, but that's all they really know. People want to start to get that 360-degree view of everything a customer did, everything I know about that customer, and allow me to take that and act on it. So this kind of relatively new marketplace that emerged is these customer data platforms called a CDP. I'm sure some of you have seen that. And I think alongside of that, people have realized we need to think about content in the same way we're thinking about data. Can we take our content and boil it down to the most base assets that we need to manage at a truly channel-independent level and share them with our systems? And I'm going to call this an omnichannel content platform. This is where I'm pushing the envelope a little bit. This marketplace is forming. So we call it the OCP, Omnichannel Content Platform. And I think many of you will start to see this in the future. Whether or not it's truly called OCP in the future, I don't know, but it's going to be called something. And I think some of the vendors in the room have already started calling this a content hub, because some of the vendors in the DAM world have been thinking about this for a long time. I don't think the buyers have been ready yet, but now they are. And I think that's why it gets really interesting for the DAM marketplace. And where this is a bit different than DAM, and where I want to challenge you all a little bit, is to broaden your scope for a little bit. I know when we talk about DAM, we've traditionally talked about images. More and more, we're talking about video. But when we talk about a true content platform to power all of our omni-channel engagements, I think we need to think bigger. So I want you to start to think about text and copy, maybe product information, maybe offers, maybe a call to action, maybe a micro experience or a document. Things that I might want to give people in every single touch point, but it's something I can manage again from that single source. So maybe there's a call to action to download a sample. That's the one we use all the time. And I encourage you all to go download a sample of our research. See what I did there? But download a sample could be something that I manage as a discrete element, right? And how it manifests itself in social and email and on the web can be very different. But what if I could manage that? So when I change it from download a sample to download an excerpt in a year from now, I can just change it one place and it changes everywhere, right? It's really powerful. Now, here's where I bring it back to the DAM world, because when it comes to this notion of an omnichannel content platform, and it's more of a theory at this point, but it's becoming a reality very fast. I like to use another analogy. I think it's a little bit like the Game of Thrones, because there's vendors coming from all sorts of different marketplaces converging to be your OCP. DAM vendors are certainly in play. Web content management vendors are certainly coming to this table. They want to be your OCP. We have CRM vendors who want to be your OCP. They have marketing operations vendors who want to be your OCP. But in my view as an analyst, taking an objective view, where we sit today in 2019, I actually feel like DAM vendors are best positioned to solve this. Now, we might in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time I might change my tune and say, you know what, they couldn't do it. Or the web content management vendors passed them. I don't know, but particularly because of the way that some of the vendors' architectures are suited to handling images and video as first-class objects, and they were built to handle those images and assets as first-class objects, I think that gives them a little bit of a head start. And those other vendors that really thought about relationships between assets, complex relationships between assets, sibling relationships, parent-child relationships, nested parent-child relationships, complex management of taxonomies and multiple taxonomies. Some of the vendors in the marketplace, in the DAM marketplace, were built to handle that. Now, not all of them were, but some of them were, and in those are the vendors that have that head start to be your OCP. And so, expanding on that a little bit, when I think of an OCP, what should you be looking for? What kind of characteristics are going to be really important to you? So certainly, I think those vendors that were built to be truly object-oriented, those vendors that were built to be truly extensible and to scale at a very very rapid and quick and easy and relatively easy pace to get to the next level. I think those are the vendors that are going to win out. I think the challenge for DAM vendors will be now to say, can we handle text? Can we handle HTML? Can we handle product data in the same places as our assets? And some of those vendors absolutely are starting to be able to do that. On the panel this morning, this question kept coming up. Can we truly know where our assets go and how people are using them once they leave our systems? And I think to take that future vision one step forward, not only are we powering our systems of engagement, creating those interactions at every single touch point in a meaningful, consistent way, but what if we can then round trip the data back to a single source? So we're not tracking analytics necessarily at just campaign levels like we all do today. Like we know how successful a single campaign was. What if we could track it back at the asset level or the core text snippet level? So we know download a sample worked better than download an excerpt. What if we really could make decisions based on that? What if we knew that this image worked better than this image? What if we knew this video performed better in this channel versus this channel, and we could make some real logical decisions based on that? That's where we're going. And the smarter enterprises are truly separating that presentation layer from the core assets that are the building blocks of creating experiences. And I think this is something that's going to become more and more relevant as we progress here. Now, what does this mean for the marketplace? This is my view of the DAM marketplace as we sit here in H2 2019. This is ever evolving. It needs to be updated daily, weekly, which is my life. But we'll keep moving. And we can have copies of the slides if anyone's interested. But I think there's been a trend over the last few years where I've seen a bit of what we call a damn divide happening, where the simpler end of the spectrum is separating from the complex end of the spectrum, and everyone on the simpler side is trying to move up into into the complex side, and everyone in the middle is kind of picking a direction. Do we want to execute on some just core simple use cases, or do we want to be these platforms that are everything to everyone? And I think that's creating a divide in the marketplace. So as a buyer or a potential buyer of DAM technology, you need to be aware of this. And if you're ready on your DAM journey to be thinking of a true omnichannel content platform, you really need to be aware of this, because you're only going to get so far with some of these vendors. There's certain vendors on this map that are not ready to be your OCP. They might be ready to be your DAM, that's okay, but as we sit here today, only a few of these, or a handful of these, are building their architectures with this notion in mind. And so as always, I want you to not look at who is the best vendor in the marketplace. I want you to come back and ask yourself, what is it you're trying to do? What are the key core scenarios that you're trying to execute on? And again, every one of you in this room has different scenarios. And so we beat up on that single snapshot quadrant view of the marketplace, because I think it doesn't tell the whole story. We actually built for our subscribers something we call the Real Quadrant, which is we ask you to identify which scenarios are most important to you. So we find that every organization has some prioritized scenarios. We ask you to say, okay, once you say which scenarios are important, tell us how important. Give us some weightings, and a little bit like Teresa's dating app that she mentioned, but with technology matchmaking, the idea here. And I want you to then receive a quadrant that is unique to you, that is suited to your needs. And hopefully the vendors in the upper right of your Real Quadrant should be the vendors that you evaluate as part of your short list. So when you think about this OCP scenario, I really want you to think about this integrated marketing content hub. And if you're a product company, combine that with product asset management. If you're something else, you're going to have a different mix of scenarios that are most important to you. And use that as your first discriminating factor to figure out which vendors should be on my short list, and then really put them through their paces as to their suitability to your needs today, tomorrow, and for the long term. This is another kind of fun little representation of the world that I live in. If you notice, each of these, I'll call it the tube lines while I'm here. Sometimes I say subway, but I'm going to say tube today. Each of these tube lines represent one of these really fundamental technology marketplaces that are going to be really important to each and every one of your enterprise's omnichannel stack. The purple line, the dark purple line, is the digital asset management space, where I think for at least the short term, I think we need to talk about content platforms as their own line. And this is our next area of research. But from a DAM perspective, you're going to see some of the same players that are trying to do both. They want to be your DAM and your content platform. And maybe someday these are both the same thing. But we're not there yet, but we're heading in that direction. So I hope I left you with some food for thought today and thinking about the future. We always talk about this notion of your DAM journey. Everyone's at a different stage of your DAM journey. But I truly believe that we all have ambitions to provide consistent experiences to all of our constituents at every single touch point. And to do that, we need to start thinking differently to execute that in the best possible way. So with that, thank you so much. And I hope if you want to try out some of the research or check out the research or stay apprised of what we're doing, feel free to check out the website or just contact me at any time. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to keep the conversation going. I'm going to be here all day to field some questions. But we have some great speakers coming up, so I'm not going to use their time. But I will use this time to plug the final session of the day, which is our Stump the Consultant session. So any of those questions that we don't get a chance to answer between now and then, write them down and stump the consultant and win a prize. But Thank you all very much for your time. Let's chat soon. Thanks.